The night started like any other, quiet and unassuming. But what unfolded under the cover of darkness has left fans reeling and the entire internet buzzing. Imagine a scene straight out of a thriller. Kirk, known for his charm and unpredictable antics, and Kendra, equally enigmatic and fiercely independent, caught in a whirlwind of mystery that no one saw coming. Emotions ran high as whispers of a secret rendezvous began circulating, hinting at a midnight confrontation that promised to shake their world and the lives of those around them to the core. Fans are shocked, and social media is ablaze with speculation. Was it a private disagreement, or something far more scandalous? The family was left divided, each side scrambling to interpret the cryptic messages and sudden absences that marked the evening. As the clock ticked past midnight, tensions escalated. Heated exchanges echoed through the halls, and accusations flew like wildfire. No one was spared from the suspense. Friends, fans, and even distant acquaintances found themselves drawn into the chaos, watching helplessly as secrets long buried threatened to erupt. You can feel the tension, the electricity in the air, the kind of night that could rewrite everything you thought you knew about Kirk and Kendra. Every glance, every hushed conversation, seemed loaded with unspoken truths, making it impossible to look away. This isn't just dramas, a collision of emotions, loyalty, betrayal, and desire that no one can escape. And as the first hints of revelation emerge, one question looms over everything. What really happened that fateful midnight? You won't believe the twists that are about to unravel. The night was heavy with tension as Kirk and Kendra stepped out into the moonlit garden, their footsteps echoing softly against the polished stone path. Yet every movement felt amplified, charged with unspoken words and simmering emotions. Fans had no idea that behind the glitz of red carpets and staged smiles lay a storm waiting to break. And for Kirk and Kendra, that storm had arrived precisely at midnight. The air was thick with anticipation, and even the crickets seemed to pause as if sensing the drama about to unfold. "Why didn't you tell me?" Kendra's voice trembled, sharp yet restrained, slicing through the silence like a dagger. Kirk froze for a moment, the weight of her gaze making him stumble over words he hadn't prepared. I thought it was better this way," he stammered, trying to sound calm but failing as the tension in his shoulders betrayed him. The garden, usually serene and almost romantic under the silver light of the moon, suddenly felt like an interrogation room, each shadow stretching and twisting, echoing the chaos in their hearts. Emotions ran high as the confrontation escalated. What began as a simple misunderstanding had snowballed into accusations and revelations that neither could have anticipated. "Better this way," Kendra snapped, taking a step closer, her eyes glistening with anger and hurt. "Do you even understand what you've put me through?" The intensity of her words hung in the air, and Kirk's usual bravado faltered. Fans who had followed their seemingly perfect public persona would be stunned to see Kendra, always poised, now unraveling with raw vulnerability. He wanted to reach out, to explain, to calm her, but every instinct he had seemed inadequate, every word trapped somewhere between truth and excuse. "I didn't mean for it to get this far," Kirk said finally, voice low, almost pleading. But Kendra was already shaking her head. "Not for it to get this far. Kirk, this isn't just about tonight. It's about everything, the lies, the secrets, the way you've kept me in the dark." Her hand trembled as she gestured toward the villa, where lights flickered in rooms filled with friends who were oblivious to the storm outside. The family was divided even now, some quietly rooting for Kirk to explain, others silently praying Kendra would walk away and protect her own peace. Emotions ran like a live wire between them, sparking every memory of past betrayals and small deceptions into explosive confrontation. Just when it seemed the tension had reached its peak, a sudden noise from the nearby fountain splash, a subtle clatter made them both jump. Kirk's eyes narrowed, scanning the darkness, while Kendra's lips pressed into a thin line. Did someone hear that?" she whispered, fear and suspicion entwining. Kirk shook his head, but the unease lingered. The night seemed to hold its breath, a silent witness to the unraveling drama. Their argument, intense and relentless, drew in the memories of friends and associates who had warned them, laughed with them, or envied them from afar. Each accusation echoed like a drumbeat, punctuated by Kendra's sharp intakes of breath and Kirk's attempts to reason, to charm, to divert. "I can't keep doing this," Kendra said finally, her voice breaking. "Every time you think you can hide something, it surfaces, Kirk, and now it's too much." Fans would have been shocked if they could see this. The couple, once the picture of poise and mutual admiration, now locked in a raw and emotional battlefield. Kirk's jaw tightened, a flicker of frustration crossing his face before it melted into remorse. Kendra, listen. I never wanted to hurt you. You have to believe me, he said, but the sincerity in his voice was met with skepticism. A testament to years of small misunderstandings that had piled up like kindling ready to ignite. Just as the argument seemed to reach a crescendo, another figure appeared at the edge of the garden, one of Kendra's closest friends. Drawn by instinct and perhaps by rumors circulating earlier that evening, their sudden arrival only escalated the drama. Kendra turned sharply, startled, while Kirk's expression shifted from frustration to guarded concern. What are you doing here? Kendra demanded, though her voice had softened, betraying both relief and renewed tension. The friend hesitated, clearly aware of the volatile scene, and murmured something about overhearing voices and sensing the conflict. This intrusion, small as it might have seemed to an outsider, fanned the flames. Suddenly, the night was no longer just Kirk and Kendra's. It involved witnesses, speculation, and the inescapable gaze of a world waiting to judge them. I couldn't let this happen without saying something, the friend said, glancing between the two like a referee trapped in the middle of a storm. Kendra's shoulders slumped slightly, a mixture of exhaustion and lingering distrust, while Kirk's fingers twitched as if ready to grab onto any lifeline. And then, without warning, Kirk's phone buzzed violently in his pocket, a message notification flashing across the screen. Kendra caught sight of it and her eyes narrowed. Who's that? She asked sharply. Kirk's hand froze over the phone, the message now a symbol of secrecy. A new thread in a rapidly unraveling web. It's just someone checking in, he said, trying to downplay it, but the lie hung in the air like smoke. Kendra's face hardened, realization dawning. Checking in? At this hour? On a night like this? Her voice was incredulous, almost theatrical in its intensity, yet completely genuine in its raw honesty. Every word, every pause, every gesture seemed magnified by the midnight setting. The garden's shadows twisting around them like the drama itself had taken physical form. The family, friends, and fans would later speculate endlessly about this moment, dissecting it frame by frame, imagining the tension, the fear, the anticipation of what might happen next. And yet, the night was far from over. Kirk, desperate to maintain some semblance of control, finally took a step forward, reaching out. But Kendra recoiled slightly, not out of anger but from the exhaustion of uncertainty. I don't even know who you are tonight, Kirk, she whispered, her voice fragile yet cutting, and in that moment, the audience could almost feel the weight of every secret, every omission, every lie that had led to this midnight confrontation. Emotions ran high as past grievances collided with present fears. Their shared history, full of love, laughter, misunderstandings, and reconciliations, now seemed overshadowed by suspicion and the shadows of what might be. The garden became a stage, the moon a spotlight, and Kirk and Kendra the unwilling actors in a drama that neither had scripted but both were trapped in. Then came a startling revelation. Kendra, in a moment of desperation, revealed she had discovered a piece of information, something Kirk had assumed long buried. I know about the messages, she said softly, almost inaudibly, yet the words cut through the night like a knife. Kirk's eyes widened in shock. The facade of calm shattered entirely. You read them? He asked, voice cracking, a rare vulnerability slipping through. Kendra nodded, her lips pressed together, a mixture of pain and resolve emanating from every pore. This revelation was the turning point, the spark that would ignite a series of events no one could have predicted. Fans would later describe it as a moment of pure suspense, a cliffhanger that left everyone holding their breath, desperate for the next revelation. And as the night stretched on, the arguments, accusations, and confessions unfolded relentlessly, a cascading wave of drama that neither Kirk, Kendra, nor anyone watching could have anticipated. The garden, once serene, had transformed into a battlefield of hearts and minds. And the midnight mystery had only just begun to reveal its terrifying, exhilarating, and shocking truths. As the weight of Kendra's revelation settled between them, a tense silence enveloped the garden, broken only by the distant hum of city lights and the occasional rustle of leaves in the midnight breeze. Kirk's mind raced, every possible explanation twisting and turning, yet none seemed enough to calm the storm Kendra had unleashed. You don't understand, Kendra, he said finally, his voice almost pleading, though tinged with frustration. I was trying to protect you, to protect us. There's more going on than you realize. Kendra's eyes narrowed, a mixture of skepticism and simmering hurt, reflecting in the moonlight. Protect us. Or protect yourself. She shot back sharply, the words laced with the sting of betrayal. Her hands trembled slightly, betraying the depth of her emotions. While Kirk ran a hand through his hair, feeling the pressure of the unraveling night pressing down on him, every accusation she hurled seemed to land with explosive intensity, echoing through the silence, making the atmosphere electric with suspense. Friends and family, who had been waiting nearby, unable to intervene, watched in stunned silence, knowing that whatever unfolded next could redefine their understanding of the couple entirely. And then, without warning, Kendra's phone buzzed violently, interrupting the charged confrontation. She glanced at the screen and froze, eyes widening, as if the message she saw confirmed every suspicion she had been harboring. "It's from him," she whispered, voice trembling with a mix of fear and indignation. Kirk's stomach twisted. He knew instantly who him was, someone from his past, someone whose presence in the night could ignite chaos beyond imagination. The tension skyrocketed, emotions running higher than ever as Kendra's gaze shifted between Kirk and the screen. A storm of confusion and anger playing across her face. "How long?" she demanded, her voice breaking. "How long have you been hiding this?" Kirk's lips parted, and for a moment, he said nothing, trapped between the truth and the instinct to shield her from further pain. Fans following the story would later describe this moment as a turning point. The kind of revelation that shattered carefully constructed images of loyalty and trust. Emotions ran high as Kendra's friends, who had quietly gathered in the periphery, exchanged anxious glances. Some wanted to intervene, some to comfort, but all were caught in the whirlpool of drama, powerless to alter the narrative unfolding before them. Kirk finally spoke, the words tumbling out in a mixture of confession and desperation. "I never meant for it to go this far. For anyone to find out like this. I thought I could handle it, but I was wrong." Kendra's expression softened, for just a fraction of a second, a brief flicker of empathy crossing her features. But it was immediately replaced by the steely resolve of someone who had been pushed to the edge. "Wrong. Kirk, wrong isn't even close. You've crossed lines that can't be uncrossed," she said, voice cracking with the intensity of long-suppressed emotions. The garden, bathed in moonlight, felt like a crucible for their feelings. Each word, each pause, each glance magnifying the tension. And then, just as it seemed the argument had reached an unbreakable impasse, a sudden sound from the villa door slamming, a muted shout at a new layer of uncertainty. Both Kirk and Kendra turned sharply, their hearts racing as adrenaline surged through them. Could it be another intrusion? A witness to the unfolding chaos? Or something far worse? The possibilities multiplied, each more dramatic than the last, and fans would later speculate endlessly about what that single noise had meant. Kendra took a deep breath, her fingers gripping her phone like a lifeline, her mind spinning with questions, suspicions, and a raw, unfiltered sense of betrayal. "We can't keep pretending anymore, Kirk," she said finally, voice trembling but resolute. "The secrets, the lies, they're consuming us. And if we don't face them, someone else will, and it won't be pretty." Kirk nodded slowly, a mixture of resignation and anxiety crossing his features. "I know," he said, the simple words carrying the weight of countless unspoken confessions and hidden truths. Just as the tension seemed almost unbearable, another figure emerged from the shadows, the family's longtime advisor, drawn by intuition and a sense of looming disaster. Their sudden presence added fuel to the fire, a reminder that the night was not just about Kirk and Kendra. It was about the network of relationships, loyalties, and expectations that had built up over years. "Are you two seriously doing this here, now?" the advisor asked, voice calm but firm, cutting through the emotional turbulence. Kendra's gaze flicked toward the newcomer, then back at Kirk, uncertainty mingling with her frustration. Kirk's jaw tightened, realizing that the presence of a witness, someone with influence and authority, would complicate matters further. "We can't keep this in the dark any longer," he said finally, his voice gaining a rare clarity. "Everything needs to come out night." The words hung in the air, heavy with promise and threat, setting the stage for the next series of revelations. As the minutes ticked by, the night deepened, shadows lengthening across the garden as if mirroring the unfolding turmoil. Kendra, despite the anger and hurt, felt a strange sense of anticipation. There was something liberating, almost cathartic, about confronting the truth head-on, even if it meant risking everything. "Fine," she said finally, a flicker of defiance in her eyes. "Let's do it. Let's lay it all out." The advisor nodded subtly, sensing the gravity of the moment, while Kirk exhaled sharply, a mixture of relief and dread flooding him. And then, as if scripted for maximum drama, the villa's lights flickered, plunging parts of the garden into darkness. Hearts raced, adrenaline surged, and fans watching from social media updates or leaked snippets would later describe the scene as cinematic. Electrifying, almost surreal in its intensity. It was a collision of past and present, secrets and confessions, loyalty and betrayal, and as Kirk and Kendra prepared to unravel the night's mysteries, emotions ran higher than ever, each revelation threatening to ignite new conflicts, deepen existing wounds, or, perhaps, pave the way for unexpected reconciliation. With the family divided, friends on edge, and the public clamoring for every detail, the midnight mystery had only just begun to reveal its most shocking secrets, leaving everyone inside the villa and beyond on the edge of their seats, wondering how the night would end, and who would come out unscathed. The air was electric as Kirk and Kendra stepped deeper into the garden, their faces illuminated by intermittent moonlight, shadows stretching across their expressions like harbingers of the drama yet to unfold. Kendra's hands shook slightly, not from fear but from the storm of emotions that had built up over countless nights of uncertainty, whispered rumors, and hushed phone calls. "I need answers," she said, voice trembling yet firm, the kind of tone that silenced even the night itself. Kirk, sensing the gravity of her words, took a deep breath, every muscle in his body tense, as if bracing for an avalanche. "Kendra, it's more complicated than you think," he admitted, each word carrying weight, hesitation, and unspoken confessions. The garden seemed to shrink around them, the faint rustle of leaves now sounding like whispers of the past, each memory of love, betrayal, and unspoken promises adding fuel to the midnight fire. Fans who had admired their public image could never have imagined the intensity of this moment, the real Kirk, stripped of charm and bravado, facing Kendra, whose poised exterior had finally cracked under the pressure of hidden truths. Suddenly, a distant scream from within the villa shattered the tenuous calm, echoing through the night like a warning. Both of them froze, adrenaline surging, hearts racing as their surroundings took on an almost cinematic quality. Kendra glanced at Kirk, her eyes wide with disbelief and suspicion. "Was that someone else?" she whispered, her voice barely audible but sharp enough to convey mounting tension. Kirk's jaw clenched, the situation now spiraling beyond the personal into something that threatened to engulf everyone around them. "I don't know," he muttered, though the uncertainty in his voice betrayed him, and Kendra's expression hardened. "Then we find out now," she said, stepping toward the villa with determination, pulling Kirk along despite his protests. Their footsteps echoed like drums, announcing their arrival, and the garden, once a backdrop of quiet contemplation, had transformed into a stage for revelations, confrontations, and secrets poised to explode. As they approached the villa, the door creaked open, revealing a familiar face, one of Kirk's closest confidants, who looked both startled and anxious. "I didn't expect you here," he said, the words carrying the weight of unspoken warnings. Kendra's gaze sharpened. "Neither did I," she said, but her tone was layered with suspicion, challenging, demanding answers. Kirk shifted uncomfortably, caught between defending his friend and facing the raw truth Kendra now demanded. The confidant's eyes darted between them, sensing the tempest. Realizing that the night had turned into a crucible, each confession, accusation, and glance threatening to ignite a chain reaction that could not be controlled. "We need to talk," Kirk said finally, his voice firm, though carrying an undertone of desperation. Kendra's arms crossed, posture rigid, every movement radiating the tension of unresolved anger and fear. "We need to talk," she repeated, her voice dripping with incredulity. "Talk, Kirk. Tonight isn't about talking, it's about honesty, about facing what's been hidden, and I am not walking away until I know the truth." The words, though simple, hung in the air, amplified by the darkness and the moonlight, turning the garden and the villa into a theater of suspense and emotional turbulence. Then, unexpectedly, Kirk's phone buzzed again, another message flashing across the screen. Kendra's eyes narrowed as she tried to catch a glimpse of the sender. "Who is it this time?" she demanded, the tremor in her voice betraying a mix of fear and rage. Kirk's fingers hovered over the device, knowing that any explanation might escalate the situation further. "It's nothing," he said, hoping to dismiss it, but Kendra wasn't convinced. "Nothing. Nothing doesn't come at this hour, Kirk. Someone's here, someone knows, or or they're trying to manipulate you and me into a corner." The accusation hung heavily in the air, emotions running higher than ever, each word another spark in an already volatile fire. The confidant, sensing the escalation, stepped forward cautiously. "Maybe we should sit, calm down," and he started, but Kendra cut him off, eyes blazing. "Calm down. No, I've been calm for too long while secrets festered, while lies grew. Tonight it ends." Her voice cracked with intensity, echoing into the night. And fans following the story through leaked updates would later describe this as the moment when reality and spectacle blurred into one breathtaking, heart-stopping scene. Kirk swallowed hard, trying to regain composure. But the tension was relentless, each heartbeat echoing like a drum, signaling the next wave of revelations. And then came the knock, sharp, deliberate, and unmistakably human at the villa's large glass doors. Both Kirk and Kendra turned simultaneously, their expressions a mix of dread, anticipation, and raw curiosity. Who could it be at this hour, in this tempest of emotions? Every possibility flashed through their minds, each more dramatic than the last. Kendra stepped forward, hand hovering over the door, pulse racing, while Kirk remained behind her, uncertain whether to intervene or let the night take its unpredictable course. The knock came again, louder, demanding attention, and the shadows of the garden seemed to twist and writhe, echoing the anxiety and suspense that now gripped the villa. With a trembling hand, Kendra opened the door, revealing a figure bathed in the moonlight, face partially obscured by a hood. The moment froze in time. The air was thick with anticipation. Fans' imaginations would later run wild trying to piece together the identity of this mysterious visitor. "I need to speak to Kirk," the figure said, voice low but insistent, carrying a gravitas that immediately commanded attention. Kendra's eyes narrowed, suspicion and anger swirling. "And why should I let you in?" she demanded. Kirk, moving past the hesitation that had paralyzed him, stepped forward. "It's okay, Kendra," he said, his voice calm but urgent. "You need to hear this." The tension was almost unbearable. Every breath, every second seemed stretched into eternity. Kendra hesitated, weighing her anger against the undeniable pull of curiosity and the promise of truth. Finally, with a slow exhale, she stepped aside, the door opening fully, allowing the figure to enter. As they moved inside, the atmosphere shifted subtly, charged now not just with suspicion and hurt, but with the promise of confrontation, revelation, and possibly reconciliation. The confidant followed cautiously, knowing that the night's events had reached a tipping point from which there would be no return. And then, the hood was removed, revealing a face both familiar and shocking. Someone who had been presumed absent, someone whose presence tonight carried the potential to unravel everything Kirk and Kendra thought they knew about loyalty, love, and betrayal. "I had to come," the visitor said, their eyes locking on Kirk's, piercing through the layers of secrecy and doubt. "There's no other way to stop this from destroying everything." Kendra's jaw dropped, the air thick with disbelief, anger, and anticipation. Fans across the world, had they been able to witness this moment live, would have erupted in shock, commenting and speculating endlessly, wondering how Kirk would respond, how Kendra would react, and what secrets might finally surface under the relentless pressure of the midnight hour. Kirk's hands trembled slightly as he reached out, voice barely above a whisper. "Why now?" he asked, a mix of relief and dread echoing in every syllable. "Because it matters," the visitor replied, voice steady, determined. "Everything matters tonight." The garden and villa now seemed to exist in a separate reality, a microcosm where time slowed, where emotions ran unchecked, and where every glance, every word, every pause could ignite a new wave of drama. And as the night deepened, shadows lengthening around them, Kirk, Kendra, and the mysterious visitor stood on the precipice of revelations that would change alliances, shift loyalties, and leave fans around the world holding their breath, desperate to know who would survive the emotional whirlwind, who would be betrayed, and what secrets would ultimately redefine the story of Kirk and Kendra forever. The tension in the villa reached a fever pitch as Kirk, Kendra, and the mysterious visitor stood facing each other, the air thick with anticipation and unspoken accusations. Kendra's gaze flitted between Kirk and the newcomer, suspicion warring with the flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, some truths could finally be revealed. "Explain everything," she demanded, voice trembling yet sharp, commanding the attention of everyone present. Kirk's shoulders slumped, the weight of the night pressing down like a physical force. As he struggled to organize his thoughts, It's not what it seems, he said cautiously, glancing at the visitor whose expression was impossibly calm amidst the chaos. There's more to this than just you and me. The visitor stepped forward, removing the last trace of mystery, by revealing evidence, messages, photographs, even videos that painted a picture of deception, betrayal, and hidden alliances that none of them had anticipated. Emotions ran high as each revelation landed with the force of a tidal wave. Kendra's hands shook as she absorbed the information, her heart pounding with disbelief and anger. How could you do this? She demanded, directing the question first at Kirk, then at the visitor, as though both were complicit in some grand deception. Kirk's lips pressed into a thin line, guilt and desperation mingling in his eyes. It wasn't supposed to be like this, he murmured. I thought I was protecting everyone, protecting you, but I made mistakes, big ones. The family, who had been quietly observing from the sidelines, now found themselves drawn into the storm. Friends whispered, some choosing sides, others trying to mediate. But the sheer intensity of the confrontation made neutrality impossible. The villa, once a sanctuary of comfort and celebration, had become a crucible for raw emotions, each person caught in a web of suspense and moral dilemmas. Kendra's phone buzzed again, another message confirming what she had feared, intensifying the conflict. She held it up, eyes blazing. And this, another secret, another lie. Kirk reached for her hand, his voice almost pleading. Kendra, listen, I never wanted you to find out like this. Please, trust me, we can fix this. But Kendra recoiled, shaking her head, a storm of fury and heartbreak reflected in every movement. Trust you when everything is crumbling around us. When every secret, every lie, comes to light at midnight. The visitor, standing silently, seemed to absorb the tension. Their presence, a constant reminder that this was bigger than personal grievances. This was a collision of truths that had been simmering under the surface for months, perhaps years. And then, as if on cue, another twist, a sound from the upper floor. The unmistakable creak of footsteps, signaling that someone else had been listening, watching, waiting. All three froze, hearts pounding, realizing that the drama was far from contained. Kirk's voice cracked slightly. Who's there? He demanded, the bravado of earlier hours replaced by raw fear and anticipation. A figure emerged, partially silhouetted, eyes darting nervously. I didn't mean to overhear, the newcomer stammered, but the impact was immediate. Kendra's jaw tightened, and Kirk's gaze flicked toward them, the night now swelling with additional layers of complexity. Emotions ran high, the air almost vibrating with tension, as each person processed the implications of these new arrivals. Secrets that had been carefully hidden were now exploding outward, creating a chain reaction that would leave no one untouched. Everything is unraveling, Kendra whispered, almost to herself, the words heavy with dread and reluctant acceptance. And yet, in the chaos, a flicker of strategy appeared. Kirk, realizing the stakes, began to articulate a plan not just for survival, but for reconciliation, for control over the narrative that had threatened to consume them. We have to face this together, he said, voice steadier now, conviction threading through the tremor. No more hiding. No more secrets. Everyone deserves the truth. Kendra hesitated, torn between the rage that had fueled her every word that night and the residual trust that still lingered in the depths of her heart. Fans following every update would later describe this as a turning point, a moment when raw emotion collided with the fragile hope of resolution. And then came another revelation, a final twist that none could have foreseen. The mysterious visitor revealed an additional secret, one that redefined alliances and shattered assumptions. The evidence they presented implicated not just Kirk, but several others in their inner circle, creating a ripple effect that left every attendee scrambling to reassess loyalties and motivations. Emotions ran higher than ever. Arguments erupted, anew apologies were whispered and rejected, and the weight of past actions hung heavy in the air. Kendra's face was pale, eyes wide with disbelief as she processed each revelation. I can't believe this, she whispered, her voice fragile yet laced with a sharp edge of determination. Kirk reached for her again, desperation visible, pleading not just for forgiveness but for understanding. Kendra, please, you have to see this from my perspective. It's messy, yes, but we can navigate it together. The visitor watched silently, the calm eye in the storm, knowing their role had triggered an emotional avalanche that could not be stopped. And as the minutes stretched into hours, the night became a stage for confessions, accusations, and confrontations that seemed to have no end. Friends and family found themselves caught in the whirlwind, each decision, each reaction, each uttered truth contributing to the escalating drama. Then, as if the universe itself demanded a climax, a sudden blackout plunged the villa into darkness, leaving only moonlight streaming through the windows, casting eerie patterns across the walls. Gasps and murmurs filled the air, hearts racing, and the shadows seemed to dance with every flicker of light, amplifying the tension to nearly unbearable levels. Kendra reached for Kirk instinctively, the touch brief but laden with unspoken emotion. "We need to stop running from this," she said, voice firm despite the fear threading through it. Kirk nodded, gripping her hand in return, both of them understanding that the night was a crucible, revealing who they truly were and what they were willing to fight for. The visitor's voice cut through the darkness, calm but commanding. "It's time to face everything. Secrets, lies, truths, everything must be laid bare." The room fell silent, the words settling over them like a physical weight, signaling that the climax of the midnight mystery was upon them. And in that charged, surreal moment, with hearts pounding, secrets exposed, and alliances tested, Kirk and Kendra took a tentative step toward resolution, toward confronting the chaos that had consumed the night. Fans would later describe this final stretch as unforgettable, the kind of drama that transcended ordinary conflicts. A perfect storm of emotion, suspense, and revelation. And as dawn began to hint at its arrival, casting a pale light over the villa and garden, the midnight mystery had reached its conclusion, not fully resolved, perhaps, but undeniably transformative, leaving every character, every witness, and every fan changed, aware that nothing would ever be the same again. And so, the chaos of that fateful midnight has left everyone stunned, hearts racing, and minds spinning with questions that have no easy answers. Kirk and Kendra's confrontation, layered with secrets, accusations, and shocking revelations, has proven that even the most seemingly perfect relationships can hide stormy depths. And fans around the world are still trying to process every twist, every heated exchange, and every raw emotion that unfolded under the cover of darkness. The villa, once a sanctuary of laughter and staged calm, became a crucible of truth, forcing confessions, exposing loyalties, and revealing betrayals that nobody could have anticipated. Even now, long after the night has ended, the ripple effects continue. Friends whisper, family debates, and fans speculate endlessly on what really happened, who was at fault, and what the consequences will be for everyone involved. And yet, amidst the heartbreak and confusion, there's an undeniable thread of possibility, a chance for understanding, for confrontation leading to clarity, for relationships to be rebuilt on honesty rather than deception. But will it happen? Will Kirk and Kendra navigate this storm together? Or will the midnight mystery prove too explosive to survive? That, dear viewers, is the question that keeps everyone on edge. The drama doesn't just end with this video, it's alive in every comment, every fan theory, every late-night discussion about what truly went down. And now, it's your turn to be part of the conversation. What do you think really happened that night? Who do you believe was hiding the biggest secrets? Can Kirk and Kendra salvage their relationship, or is this the beginning of an irreversible fallout? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear every theory, every opinion, every hot take you have. Make sure to hit the like button if this roller coaster of emotion, suspense, and shocking twists had you on the edge of your seat. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next explosive update in this ongoing saga. Turn on your notifications, because the story isn't over. And you'll want to be the first to know when new secrets emerge, alliances shift, and drama explodes once again. Stay tuned, stay engaged, and join the conversation, because in a world of unexpected twists and shocking midnight revelations, your voice matters, your theories matter, and every reaction is part of the story. So, what's your verdict? Who do you trust? Who surprised you the most? Comment below, like, subscribe, and get ready because the next chapter of Kirk and Kendra's midnight mystery could be even bigger, even wilder, and even more unforgettable than anything we've seen so far.